Kia ora. This cheeky wee little thing is my niece. Her name's Harper, and she was about 5 years old when I took this photo. And on this particular day, I was winning the anti-World Olympics, I think. I had taken her swimming in the Akatura River. We were making flower crowns and even picked organic blueberries. It was a brilliant day. And then she looked up at me and she goes, "Auntie Mandi." I said, "Yes, Harper." She goes, "Am I fat?" Oh, hell. To say that my heart hit the floor was probably the understatement of the year. I personally and my sister together had experienced crippling body shame as kids and as adults. And I had spent the last 5 years working very hard to heal those demons of the past. And here I was looking at this beautiful creature and hearing her express concerns around body shame. Well, she was perfect. And day to day, I'm a photographer. I work with women specifically to help them learn to stand in their own power. And I had missed my niece somehow. It was a huge wake-up call. So I decided I had to do something. I needed to go on a mission and try to figure out what I could do to stop this lumbering culture train that seemed to be heading right for her. And I started doing research. And one of the things, the primary statistic that really stuck out in my head was that every day we see between 400 to 600 photoshopped images. Every day. Those typically are a genetic 1% to 5% of women. So the other 95% are completely invisible, typically. So being the crazy auntie, the artistic one, I decided I was going to do something just a little nuts to kind of deal with this. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to treasure the whole 100%, not just the 1% to 5%. I wanted to go, you know what? This body, it is a gift. It is a creative force. And we need to stand happy and supportive of it. And I'm going to frickin' gild it. So what I did is I put an ad out on Facebook to my friends. I said, "Hey, guys, who's willing to let me cover them in golden clay and then photograph them?" Plenty of people were like, "Yeah, you could cover me in golden clay, but photographs? I don't know." So, but 6 people said, "You know what? I'll do that." And they did it because they wanted to support the kids too. They wanted to stand in solidarity. And so we covered them in golden clay, and we went, "Yeah, this rocks," and we were really excited about it. We're like, "Let's take it to the paper. Yeah, let's take it to the paper. This is a bigger story than just my niece." So we did, and they wrote an article, and 100 people put their hands up and said, "You know what? I'm willing to do this too." And so we decided to hold another big photo shoot, and we held it in my hometown of Upper Hutt. And in Upper Hutt, we had 70 people rock up for this photo shoot in little old Upper Hutt. It was pretty amazing, and I was so excited. But one woman left incredibly triggered, and I should have seen that one coming, because not only am I a photographer, but I'm also a holistic health nurse, and I had dealt with body shame myself. So I realized that we needed to hold a workshop beforehand. And it started as a tiny workshop, and then it's evolved into a whole day workshop for mothers and daughters and helping them to stand in their power. And that was really exciting, but we could do more. And so what I decided to do at that point is I wanted the images that we took, I wanted them to get on a bigger stage. So every year as a photographer, I'm able to enter the National Photography Awards. So I can enter 10 images and try to get awards. And I had several images that I had already put together that year that I had wanted to submit. But I saved space to make sure that I could honor the women as well. And I submitted this image to the National Photography Awards. My partner and I talked about it, and we're like, we're not sure how it's going to go down. And he's like, are you sure you want to risk the chance of winning? I'm like, no, let's put it in. Just for the women, I need to honor them. And the golden boobies, they got a gold, babe. I was really excited. And from the other images that I submitted that year, I managed to pull off New Zealand's Creative Photographer of the Year, which was exciting. And like, little ego boost aside, the thing that was really exciting about that was that I could use it as leverage because we needed to do more. And so I started getting another crazy idea. How far can we take this? And one of the things that I was learning is that the women, as they were telling me their stories when they were being photographed, I'm like, there's a flippin' documentary in here. There's a movie. We need to make a movie. Now, the most I've ever done on a film set is on a short film, and I did hair and makeup, and I've taken some stills. So I thought, oh yeah, she'll be all right. And I submitted to the New Zealand Film Commission saying, I have this really cool idea for a documentary. And there were 70 films that were being put forward for the Fresh Shorts grants, most of them with very experienced film crews and our green-ass team. And we managed to pull off one of the 7 grants that were given out that year, or in that session. So awesome. Oh my God, we're making a film. But I had a big problem. I'd run out of boobs. There are only so many women in Upper Hutt that are going to let you photograph them, right? So I was like, shit, I have this grant. What am I going to do? And so my partner, Craig, and I put our heads together, and we started thinking about it, and we went, okay, we need to, our studio can only support so much. We can't go on a whole big tour and fund the whole thing because the film grant was great, but it was only enough to cover the filming. It wasn't enough to cover these workshops. So we opened up a charitable trust called Everybody's a Treasure Charitable Trust, and we started applying to the Creative Community Scheme, and we ended up getting grants in massive towns like Eltham and Parongia and Bulls, and it was great. And so we're like, yeah. And but surprisingly enough, we still were able to get 320 women to date to get their kit off for me and let me cover them in golden clay and photograph them. And this is amazing. And we're still trying to get the 600, so this is a work in progress because that 600 forms a counterpoint to our daily consumption of photoshopped images. But I can tell you one thing that I was not truly expecting. And it was that when you are shooting a documentary, it's a hell of a lot more intense. You get to learn a lot more about people because you're interviewing them versus just photographing them. Well, in our workshop, one of the things that we tried to do is we wanted to have 3 words that had been used against our body and then change them out for 3 words that we wanted to have on our body, or we wanted to have associated with our body. And one of the women in the workshop said, you know what, let's write it on ourselves. And I thought, yeah, that's really cool. That'd be really visual, and I can feel like a real director. Yeah, it'll be great. And so they started writing them on themselves. And then I really started sucking as a director because I couldn't actually see because I was in tears. The things that were coming across that had been fished out of the subconscious of women and were being written boldly on their chest. One woman wrote property. She was in tears. She wrote property on her frickin' body, and she wasn't talking about her own. That about broke me to see this. And what I realized is that when I was interviewing women, there was one woman, she was about 60 years old, and she had written some words on her chest that had come about when she was 10 years old. 10. 50 years. She was in tears when she wrote it. It was still raw. It was still that painful. For 50 years, she had sat with this barb stuck inside her subconscious. Pain. I started to notice a pattern in all of this. I noticed that these pains were being embodied. They were actually physically present in the body. And we were seeing things like depression and anxiety in women. We were seeing this critical voice, this really violent, at many times, critical voice that had been taken from those bullies' words and had become a loop inside their head, and had taken on all forms of other ability to speak at that point. That bullying voice would then often go and silence them. Or they would talk so much, they would try to overtalk what was going on up here. Then it would come down to their heart. And it would be either a loner behavior because they had been hurt so much, or often you would see this martyr behavior where they would give everything away because they didn't necessarily feel that they were worthy to receive anything back. And then it stuck down to their belly. They felt it in their gut. And this is the land where they needed to stand in their own power, that's what we were aiming to do. When I had them pose, I would make sure they were standing like this. But the stories that they were telling initially, if you looked at the body language, it was like this. And what you were seeing is this victim, this bully cycle. And it was often girl-on-girl violence that was happening as well. It would drop down to the seat of their emotions. And in many cases, they were numbing. And in other cases, they were lost in the land of addiction. For me, this was tragic because it wasn't so much all this pain that was being embodied, that was being actually found and stuck inside their body. What was so tragic is that it was this loss of creative potential. Because our body is our greatest creative tool. It is our tool. We can take something as abstract as an idea and we can manifest it as physical reality, but that has to happen through our body. But if we're sitting there hating on our body because it jiggles in the wrong direction, that's hating on your most exquisite tool. It's a loss. And so many of these women were telling me stories that they only felt capable of giving just this tiny little bit of themselves. But they were freaking huge inside. They had so much in them. Now you would think, with this sort of thing going on, why the hell would anybody rock up to a photo shoot with me if this was going on in their brain? And the thing that was also scary is that it didn't matter if it was a big girl or if it was a tiny girl, the same sort of chants were found, at least in the ones who showed up for this. But they showed up. They had courage. What they ended up doing was forming this golden boobied shield wall for the next generation of girls. And that took some freaking huge courage. Big ovaries. And what I realized, or what I started calling them, is my luscious order of golden shield maidens, because that seemed to really fit. And they started taking back their power one by one. They would wipe off those nasty words, those barbs, and they would change them. They changed the words. They changed how they felt, and it was a seed planted. Now, am I saying that this healed them forever? No. But what I am saying is it gave them a choice. It gave them power to change the way that, or at least an awareness of what was going on in their mind. It was beautiful. And then they took those words and they had the sensual experience of actually rubbing on the clay and touching their body and being grateful and having gratitude for their body. It was beautiful. And then standing in their own power. Now, when you do something like this, you got to lead from the front. And I can tell you for absolute certainty that this really pushed and showed and exposed to broad daylight every last bit of sizeism I had in me, every last bit of body shame that I had. It pulled it up straight to the surface. And I realized that the greatest gift that I had was being able to treat my body as a best friend. And this is me with my best friend, Carolina, who rocked up and supported me and then got her kid off too. So, yay, friends. But I knew that we could do more, because what I realized is we didn't need a wall. We couldn't coddle our kids. We needed to give them tools, something that they could use, not just in a body shame issue, but a tool that they could use to develop their creative resilience, a tool that they could use to learn to have self-compassion. That's what we needed. And I knew it wasn't just a one-off workshop that could do it. So we developed the Heartivist, which is a mentorship program, and it's in its pilot stage now. So Harper made that comment 2 years ago. We've been through 3 terms now of the Heartivist, and it's amazing. And we're growing it and we're learning. It's happening in Upper Hutt. It's happening in South Auckland. We got a grant to go up there and put it on. And we're starting a Train the Trainer in Wellington. But for me, it comes back down to Harper. And it comes down to the fact that she lives in Rotorua. I only get to see her twice a year, so I can't impact the change that I want with her as easily as I had hoped. So I need to ask you if you could help me. And if you could help me just by raising the level of self-compassion in New Zealand. And I can give you 3 easy ways to do it. Okay, maybe not easy, but I can give you 3 ways. Okay? Number 1, when that critical voice starts kicking off in your head, forbid it to have access to your voice box. Okay, especially if there's a child in the room. They don't need to hear that crap going on about your jiggles and your wiggles. They just don't need to hear it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. The second thing that I challenge you to do is right now I want you to think about this. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being, nah, I'm not a fan, and 10 being, yeah, pretty good. I want you to figure out where you stand on being your body's best friend. How much self-compassion do you personally have? Got that number? Okay. Now I want you to think, what would it be if you could amp it up a few notches? How would your life be different? And then I want you to think about what steps you would need to take to get to that level. And then the final thing, if you're to speak of the body, especially in earshot of a child, the only words that I encourage you to let escape from your lips are words of gratitude. Gratitude for what that body can do, the creative force that it is, how clever it is, how amazing it is, what a treasure it is. And on that note, I'm going to leave you with the luscious order of Golden Shield Maiden's gang sign. And what I believe to be the happiest slide in TED Talk history. Thank you very much.